look who's back. I'm so excited. It's just one day after I recorded my last podcast, and I'm back. Last time it took me a whole month to be back. But welcome to Inspiring Women with ADHD. I'm Renee Allen, your host, and let's talk some more today. Before I get talking about everything else ADHD related, I just want to explain in case you're curious. I know sometimes my mind has a question and then I don't focus on what somebody's saying. Like if I'm hearing someone speak, I might be curious where they're from. And so I'm thinking about that instead of listening to what they're talking about. And in case you're curious where this music is coming from, that is at the beginning and end of my podcast, it's one of my sons and one of my daughters singing. And this is many years ago. My son was probably in high school. Now he's a resident for oral surgery, oral and maxillofacial surgery. So he's a lot older, married with kids. But when he was in high school, he used to write music and have a lot of fun doing it. And one time my daughter was home from college, and together they made this song. And I've always loved it. I think it's, if you listen to the whole song, and at the end, I play a lot of it. It's still not the whole song if you combine the beginning and the end. But at the end, there's just so many words that are kind of playful and silly. And it just kind of reminds me of things that my brain would do, go in all those different directions. I don't know if you ever heard that song, You Broke My Heart in 17 Places. I don't know if Tracy Ullman was the first person who sang it, but I remember she sang it in the 80s. And I think it was a remake of it, like a song from the 60s or something. But she says all these words so fast together. And I loved it because, you're trying to keep up. And how did they even put all those together? So, anyway, that's what the song is like. And it's fun for me to hear them together having fun. So, that's it. That's it. And it's called Without a Cause. But and it's a song that I could use without having to have rights to a song. My son said I could use it, and I thought, oh, good, I don't have to find a royalty-free song because I was having a hard time finding something I liked. But the topic of today, I actually have a topic. Um, it's hard for me to do that. It's hard for me to narrow things down. But my topic for today is where to put all those ideas. So last episode was about all the ideas that just kind of keep coming and coming and coming to our heads throughout the day. And some we can get rid of by getting a new idea. Other ones we can't get rid of, and then it makes it hard to focus on something. It makes it hard to pay attention. Like I mentioned, I might be listening to somebody talking. It could be a speaker. It could also be just a friend talking to me, and something distracts me. I have a question in my mind, or um, start thinking about, oh, like she got new shoes. Should I get new shoes? That kind of thing. Anyway, so what do we do with these ideas that keep coming into our minds? And in a conversation, that's a little harder. It's not like we're going to take out a piece of paper, like, excuse me, I'm going to write this down for later. But there are times that we can do that. And one, I think I mentioned before that I teach yoga. Which is kind of funny because now I think about it and I think, how did I get drawn to yoga? I know a lot of people who say, oh, I could never do yoga because I can't relax. I can't stop thinking. And and I thought I get that. And I think the reason they feel like they wouldn't do well in a yoga class is they think that the aim is to stop thinking, and it's really not. It you can learn to slow down how many thoughts are coming in or just to notice it. I mean, that's a whole different episode for sure. But it's not doesn't mean you're not doing yoga well if you can't stop thinking. I had one woman come in once who said, I just have to let you know, and I could identify with it because that was actually how I felt when I first did yoga. But she said, I just want you to know I've only tried yoga once before. It was years ago. And all I did was keep making fun of the teacher in my mind. I didn't do very well. And I thought, okay, well, good luck. And she did fine. She kept coming back. She kept coming back. And um, So that was good. And actually, the first time I did yoga was on a video with a video, like I used to wake up and do exercise videos. So one time I saw a yoga video for sale and I thought, oh, I'll try that. But I didn't know if I'd like it because I thought I'll probably, actually, I kind of thought a similar thing that her. I'll probably kind of like make fun of the person, what they're saying in my mind, because I just thought that they'd say silly things, but it wasn't like that. It was more like, oh, this feels really good. Oh, I'm super relaxed. Or, oh, I wonder if I could do that. There were other things going on in my mind. And then I liked all the connections. I always make connections, like find symbolism in this and that. And I was finding that for some reason while I was doing yoga with whatever was going on my mat with me, I could take that into the rest of the day and into the rest of the week. I was learning things inside. Not that somebody was telling me, it just, I don't know, it was different. So I just started wanting to share that with others. And I taught it for about 10 years just to friends, just to kids at school. I just kept saying, oh, I could do that before I got certified and taught. But that was my whole point. Oh, okay. So one of the women who comes to one of my classes, my Friday morning class, brings a journal with her and she has it by the side of her mat. And she said to me a few weeks ago, she said, did you notice a lot of times I stop um, in the middle and write things down? And I said, oh, yeah, I did notice. I never care what people do because I just figure they're there for themselves, not, to please me or anybody else there. But she said that she does that because then when things come to her mind, she writes it down so she can let go of that thought. And I thought that was pretty great because I haven't thought of that. I've gone to a lot of yoga classes, but I have at times thought, oh, I want to remember this later. There's some things that I think I want to remember and I want to write them down when I'm not at home. And usually I have a phone with me so that, there's always a notes app. I don't know if your phone has a notes app, but if you ever have an idea or thought or something, you're at home. I think I've mentioned notebooks before, but having a place for those thoughts can be super helpful. But what are other things that could be helpful? Uh, Shopping. And I know ideas we might think of as, oh, I'm being so creative, but shopping or wanting to spend money or wanting to find a new skirt or whatever it is. I know I've spent a lot of time, like way too much time, the past, I don't know how many years. I noticed it mostly in 2020 when things were shut down, where I go online and I would just spend so much time researching. I need to get a new this, and I'd read reviews and I do, all this, all these, spend all this time comparing all this information and people's thoughts on buying this thing. And then sometimes I'd sit there and think, this is driving me crazy because I can't make a decision. And I keep getting new ideas because as I read one person's review, then they say, well, actually, this is good. And, it just keeps leading you into what I think is a huge waste of time. And I remember years and years ago reading a book and someone was saying, the author was saying, it's actually Steve Ross, and the book's called Happy Yoga, which may not sound like it would be about this, but he had some practical advice in there. One of the things was to be happy, was to be able to let go of things that are gnawing at you. And so sometimes the idea of, I need to get a new skirt or whatever it is. I know a skirt, not how many people are needing a new skirt, but maybe people do. So that just came to my mind. But let's say that's what you're researching, that's what you're spending time doing. He said that when you've purchased that item that you feel like, I need to buy this, and now I think it's even worse because we can spend time reading reviews. At the time his book was written, I don't even think that was a thing. But the reason he said that it feels so good to make that purchase isn't because we super, super needed what we bought. It's because all those ideas are in our head, all those thoughts are in our head that are pushing and pushing and pushing. And until we can let go of that, we're not free of it. So buying them, buying the items is a way to free our minds. Writing things down is a way to free our minds. So anytime you can think of how can I free my mind, and I'm not suggesting go and buy everything. um, but what he actually said was the opposite, was to just walk out of the store, or you've got your shopping cart at whatever website for that you're putting things in, and you're about ready to purchase, and then they say you just need $8 more to get free shipping, and you're like, oh man, now I got to go make more decisions, and then you go back to make more decisions. And he says to just click that big X at the top, or at least that's how I interpreted whatever you said in that chapter. It's been so long, but I've used that so many times. And even if I feel like, gosh, but I just wasted all this time and then I'm not even buying anything, it's like, it's okay. You're saving yourself some money. And, just click the X right now, get out of that web page, get out of that website. And you, you can walk away from it. You really can. And it really does just get it out of your mind. My mother-in-law said once, that sometimes we just like to make these little decisions, like, we're in a store and we're deciding, should I get this kind of this or that kind of that, and then we decide and we put it in our cart. And she said there's a satisfaction with making that decision and putting it in your cart. And a lot of times you can look at your cart at the end and you really don't even need most of it or all of it. And the fun of it was making those decisions. Do you really need to go home with that stuff? And I'm not saying don't buy anything ever again, of course, but I've used that a lot. My daughter and I use that a lot at a particular store. Well, we'll go through the store, we'll make all these decisions. We won't make it so hard that we don't put stuff in the cart, because sometimes that's a hard thing. Like if I walk away, I, may not be here when I get back, or whatever pressure we put on ourselves. And then when we're done, like almost to the register, when we're ready to go to the register, we'll look in our carts and we'll say, so is there anything here I don't need? Or I really don't even care if I get it anymore. And a lot of times there is. And we are responsible enough that we walk back and put it where it belongs. I know some people aren't. It's much more responsible to put it back. But yeah, there are ways to free our minds that may be different than what we think. And you know, even just recognizing that freeing our minds is done by buying something, but it could also be done by not buying it, by just Xing out, whether it's taking it out of the cart, putting it back, or actually going out of that website and hopefully forgetting about it. But yeah, who knows why all this stuff gets stuck in our heads and makes it hard to do things. But there are a lot of ways to take care of these ideas. And some of it may just be setting a new time for it. I think I mentioned yesterday of sending yourself an email or putting something on the calendar. I don't know what your system is. I have a multifaceted system because I found that the calendar can be really helpful. But if it's my only line of defense, it may not be enough. So if you have an appointment, something you need to do, if those are the kinds of things that are coming into your minds, do write it down. Do have a system, whether it's a calendar on the wall, a post-it note on the door before you go, a reminder on your phone. Those are all fantastic things. And I'm sure you've implemented one or maybe all of these, but I just want to share with you my best way because I think I am so forgetful. I don't know why, but yeah, I am. It seems to have gotten worse in the last few years, so I've found bigger and better ways to take care of it. Uh, One of the things I used to notice is if I needed to, let's say I wasn't ready to leave my bedroom yet, but I wanted to remember to put this cup in the kitchen when I did leave the bedroom. And if I kept the cup on my anywhere else in my room that wasn't by the door between my bedroom and the kitchen, I wouldn't remember. So I've really learned to put things right where I see them on the exit of where I'm going. And what's funny is like today I had a cup that was on a counter on the way to my bedroom. It was just in the living room. Our bedroom's right off the living room. So there was a cup that was there on that cupboard, I guess it is, that's on the side of the fireplace. And and I would see it and I thought, oh, I must have left that there earlier. What's that doing there? Well, I was sitting on a chair and I put it there. But as I walked in my bedroom, I thought, you need to get that when you come back out. Well, when I came back out, I didn't see it. If it's not in my line of vision, just like I said about being klutzy, if it's not in my line of vision, I'm not going to see it when I come back out. I'm not going to grab it and I'm not going to put it in the kitchen. And this probably happened 4 or 5 times that I'd walk into the bedroom and I'd think, oh, get that cup when you come back out. And finally, the next time I went in my bedroom, I just grabbed it as I walked in and held it in my hand until I came out because I knew if I don't see it, I won't get it. But if there's things that you need to take with you to go somewhere and you think of it a day or two before, the best way to make sure that you'll take it is to put it somewhere now. Let's say, I don't know if you have multiple bags, but I have a bag for going to the gym, a bag for that I take to the gym when I teach yoga, and a different one that I take when I work out. And then I just move my wallet from one to the other. I also have, a purse or whatever. But let's say there's something I want to take to the gym the next day. I like boxing. I don't know if you like boxing with a heavy bag. I used to have a heavy bag at home, but when we moved, I couldn't take it across the country with me. It had, I think, a couple 100 pounds of sand in it, and it took up a lot of room. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll just buy one when I get there. And I sold it to a high school kid who was really glad to have it. But anyway, so yeah, if I want my boxing gloves the next time I go to the gym, I put them in my gym bag. I put the gym bag by the door that I'll walk out when I go out to the car, and then I'll have it. If I don't, when it's time to leave, 9 times out of 10, I won't remember it. Other things that have helped me is sunglasses. I don't know if you like wearing sunglasses when you drive. I try to keep a pair in the car, but that used to be my strategy is have a pair that's always in the car and then have a pair that's in the house. And so if you need it in the house, like to go on a walk or to just go outside, you have them. But a lot of times what happens is when I leave the car, I forget, they're already on and I just put them up on my head and I forget. And so then I walk in the house with them. And then the next time I go out, I don't have my sunglasses. And sometimes I can, run back in the house and get it, but sometimes you don't have time to do that. So I actually bought a little shelf and put it right by the door that goes to the garage, and it's my sunglasses shelf. So if I come in the house with sunglasses on, I put it there, and hopefully I see it on the way out. Most of the time I do. There are a few times that I haven't, but it does make it easier to run back and grab because they're so close. But just set yourself up for success because a lot of things don't stay with us. A lot of plans, I mean, I call them ideas, but ideas are plans too. But plans, it could be as simple as what you want to bring with you. And, or somebody says, I left this at your house. Can you bring it next time? This, or this. And you say, sure. And then you see them the next time and you don't have it. But if you put it in your bag, whatever it is, or put it next to your purse or whatever, with a post it note on it, this is bring this to your friend, you'll remember. I don't know. I try to set myself up for success as much as possible because I lose things so easily. I forget things so easily. And maybe that's not your challenge. I know for ADHD, there are different levels of challenges for different people. They come, I think they come in different strengths to different people. I like to call it a strength, even though it's can be a problem, but it is in a higher dose. And and I've also seen in my life that changes in different phases of life. I'm not sure why. I don't know why. I didn't I mean I can look back and see times that I got mixed up on things or forgot this or that, but I don't know. It just seems to my husband says it's because as you get busier, you just only have so much room in there, or I only have so much room in there for so many thoughts. That I'm not sure about that. It's possible. My very favorite method of letting go of ideas or storing ideas. Maybe that's a good way to put it, huh? Do you like how I think out loud here? But I guess that's what it is, storing ideas that come to my mind. So, an idea, I might act on it. I might be able to act on it, like I said with the sunglasses. Like, I hope I don't forget my sunglasses. I can't believe I just wore them in the house. So, I act on it and I put it on the shelf, or I learn to put up a shelf or decide I'm going to use that method or whatever. Putting a method into action always takes a little bit more time. And I know I'm getting a little distracted from the next method, but are you familiar with Stephen R. Covey's book, Seven Habits for Highly Effective People? I know it came out long time ago and he's written other books since, but that first one, I first heard of it in the late 80s, I think it was, maybe early 90s, but I was in a book discussion group. I think it was probably in 1990, but one of there's two things that I always remember from it. One of his four quadrants, he has four things that are, I guess there are seven habits, weren't they? Okay, one of the seven habits was about four quadrants, and another seven of the seven habits was called sharpening the saw. I'll talk about both of them. The first one, sharpening the saw. He said that when you have a saw, which I don't use a saw very often, but I'll go with it. When you have a saw, it is much more effective if that saw is sharp. And in order for it to work, let's say when you buy it brand new, it's probably going to be pretty sharp. But the more you use it, you need to maintain it. You need to sharpen that saw. So the next time you need it, it will work really well. And so I look at things like putting up a shelf for my sunglasses or having a separate bag for going to the gym so it's easier than adding something to this other bag or whatever. It's already ready, it's already there. All I have to do is just switch the wallet. And yes, there have been times that I've gone out without my wallet because I forgot to switch the wallet, but at least I had the other things. But sharpening the saw is taking the time to do something before it's needed so that from then on it's going to work really well. So if you can remember to sharpen the saw, any of these little methods that I talk about, any method that you implement in your life will be worth the time. The other step that he had was, and I wish I were videoing because you should see my hands are just moving like crazy because there's four quadrants. So of course I'm making squares with my hands and I can just see the four quadrants. But the four quadrants is it's a square that has a plus sign in the middle, so it becomes four squares. And the squares are either urgent or not urgent, or important or not important. And so in the quadrants, it's kind of like a graph. So you have how they overlap. So you have urgent and not important, or urgent and important, or not urgent and not important, and not urgent and important. Does that make sense? Okay. So a lot of times we do things that are urgent and important, and that's kind of when we're just running around like, oh my goodness, I need to do this and I didn't prepare and I need to get this done now. So it's really important, and we waited to the last minute, or maybe it was just urgent, maybe something fell upon us that was urgent, or it's urgent, it's really not that important, but for whatever reason we are spending time doing it. And then there are the things that are not urgent but they're important, and there are things that are not urgent and not important. And I'm sure that we all spend some time in our lives doing the things that aren't that important and they're not urgent. That's probably relaxing to do that at times. But he said to be highly effective, that if you spend your time doing some things that are not urgent, but they're important. So it's not urgent for me to make a shelf for a place for sunglasses or to buy an extra pair of sunglasses so I'm never running around without my sunglasses. I know I'm making the sunglasses sound like an urgent thing, but sometimes it is if I want to drive without squinting and that kind of thing. But anyway, so yeah, if we spend time doing things like setting up a system, buying some post-it notes, figuring out how to use the notes app on our phones, or how to set alarms and label them on our phones, or any of these things that are very helpful for women with ADHD, maybe men with ADHD too. But I'm talking to the women here. But if we spend time doing things when it's not urgent, but it's something that's important, and I would also submit that it is sharpening that saw, then we are setting ourselves up for success. For a long time, I used to think, I used to listen to other people say that they made to-do lists and, they had all these methods for being effective, for getting things accomplished. And I thought that just doesn't work for me. Or they tell me about some app that they use that helps them stay organized. And for me, it was missing a lot of steps, meaning it wasn't helping me stay on task. I could see my list of 20 things to do, or 10 things to do, or 7 things to do, or 5 things to do, and all it did was overwhelm me, and it would make me wonder why I couldn't get them done, or why I couldn't get 1 or 2 things done on there, or why I'd find something else to do instead. And so it wasn't helping me get past, maybe there was some of that can't get past the overwhelm thing there. But I really think a lot of it was I just kept thinking of other things that I should be doing. I had other ideas that kept coming in my head, and had a hard time focusing, if you want to say that, or just getting motivated, or just sticking with what I needed to do. And so, and I kind of wondered, how come to-do lists are so popular? How come how come everyone likes them so much? And if I look back in life, I probably just do some to-do lists in college, because I think I had to plan out my days to figure out what homework to do and where to go. But I don't know if that would actually be a to-do list. But anyway, I think I mentioned this briefly in a previous episode. But one day I was sitting there and I had a notebook open, and I needed to be working on something. And I thought of something else to do. And I thought, I can't do that right now. I have to do this, whatever I'm working on. And I thought, well, just write it down to do later. And I thought, oh, okay. So I opened up the notebook and I wrote my do later list. And it was kind of the opposite of a to-do list. Like, I don't have to do this today. I don't even have to do it tonight. I can just look at it later. It was kind of a don't do this now list. But I call it a do later list, because don't do this now list. I don't know. That works too, actually. It's just a lot longer, a lot longer name. So I had my do later list. And while I tried to focus on this task that I was doing, and it was something that I needed to do on the computer for this project that I was working on, I could not believe how many things came up in my mind while I was working on that. And I was probably working on it for about an hour. So I had my do later list over there, and it started getting so full that I had to start making different categories. So it might be, oh, you need to remember to buy more laundry soap. So I had one of my do later list was to buy, or to purchase, or whatever, purchases, or however you want to say it. And then another one had to do with, with my yoga, or another one had to do with my kids, or this planner. Another one had to do with my podcast, all these steps that need to be done, or whatever. I would think of things, and instead of those ideas coming and getting in the way of what I was doing, it's like, sorry, I don't have time for you right now. It'd be like somebody's knocking on the door. I'm here, let me in, let me in. And I'm like, no, you can't come in. I'm telling these ideas. You can't come in my head. I'm doing something else right now. And so then I'd write it down, and I probably filled 4 pages of these categories of things that kept coming up in my mind for that hour. And the thing that I liked about it was it put me at ease to know that I wouldn't forget. It kept me on track, because I didn't start doing something different, so that was nice too. But it didn't actually give me a to-do list for later because honestly, when I write lists, they're not very pretty. They're not very neat. Everything, my handwriting has gotten worse over the years. They're not really so legible that I'm going to go, okay, and then tomorrow, here's what I'm going to do. It's not like that at all. But what I could do is I could look at it later and think, is there anything here that I really need to do? And then yeah, I could do that next, or I can look at this again tomorrow or something. And I don't even know where that it'd be. I'd be curious to go back and look at it and see. I should probably do that later. I'd have to write it down though. I've got three notebooks here and no pen, but I'll look for that. I'll look and see how many things did I actually do, how many were actually important, or how many were just pure distractions. Or later, I just thought, yeah, it didn't really matter. A few other things I found that matter to me in whatever systems I develop, like having a notebook and writing a do this later list or whatever it is ha- I mean, this is going to sound really particular. I don't know if it's just because I've gotten older, I've gotten more particular, but I find that if I like the paper that I write on, like if it's a little thicker, I'll be more apt to use it. So I found some notebooks that have, I don't know, they're kind of off-white. I don't know if it's really recycled paper or not. I'm looking at this one. Yeah, it actually is. They're a little thicker, and when I write on them, and then there's a certain kind of pen. If I have this kind of pen, I am more apt to write things down than if it's on a thinner, kind of the normal notebook like kids would have in school. I, d- I don't know. It's not as pleasurable. It's not as rewarding for me. If I have my system be rewarding for me, if it's something that I like my daughter-in-law was saying. So my daughter-in-law has ADHD. At least one of my daughters for sure has ADHD, and two of my sons. One of them knows he does, and the other one doesn't think he does. So anyway, but my daughter-in-law, and I talk a lot about it a lot. She has an app that she uses that she loves. It's pretty, that's rewarding for her, and it works for her brain to use that to calendar things and to keep track of things. I have a hard time enjoying anything sustainable on my phone. I mean, I use my phone and I look at it and stuff, but as far as making it a pleasurable experience, I like my screen to be bigger. So I don't know, it's more relaxing for me or something. And I feel like we're in a safe place here while I'm on the podcast because I'm talking to women who are more apt to be like me. So it may not feel as strange to say, you know, I don't like looking at a small screen. I want my paper to feel good when I write on it. And I don't know if you have that kind of thing, but pay attention to those things because if you realize, oh, yeah, I do like writing on this, but I don't like writing on that. Like I learned that if I wrote a note for myself of don't forget this doctor's appointment or whatever, if I put it on my calendar, that used to work. But then I don't know, for some reason it would get cluttered with other things. So I started using post-it notes long before I even knew I had ADHD. But if I wrote more than one thing on the post-it note, I wouldn't see it. And if I didn't write in a Sharpie, like the black bold, I wouldn't see it. So I have to have very few words. I have to have bold, and I'll see it. It'll catch my attention. And I either have to have it on the fridge because I go to the fridge a lot, or I have to have it on the door or close to the door as I'm walking out of the house, and that will help me remember something or wherever I'm walking by. If I don't want to forget that I'm doing something that day, besides setting an alarm, that reminds me to like, oh yeah, that's what day is about. That's what I have to do in an hour and a half or something like that. But pay attention to what works for you, or maybe one of my ideas will work for you. I don't know. But just take time to sharpen your own saw, to think, what can I do that can help me when other things can get in the way and make it so that I forget things or don't be productive or don't accomplish what really needs to be done. I hope this has been helpful for you to listen or just commiserate with someone who might do or think like you do. That's been one of the most fun things since I found out I had ADHD is hearing all kinds of things. It's not just how I think or how I've done things or what I forget or whatever, but even physical things, making sense of it, and then also seeing that other people do it too, because there are a lot of people in my real life who never done a lot of the things that I do. And so it's kind of wonderful that we have this wide world of the internet to be able to connect with people and find out that we can share these things and I'm actually entertained by a lot of it. I don't know if you are in yourself, but I hope you are. I hope that as you look at things in yourself that I mean, obviously it's not all fun and games, but some of it's kind of funny. I mean, the sense of humor with it all. I'm sure we could all list the negatives and they are there, but sometimes it is comical when you just can't pay attention to everything, just can't remember everything. And sometimes we do have an overabundance of thoughts. I was blown away when I first married my husband because my mom used to say stuff, and in the olden days when everyone ate dinner together at night. I don't know, maybe you guys still do in your house, but we haven't in quite some time. But growing up, we always did. And my mom would say things like, a penny for your thoughts, or what are you thinking about right now? And we go around the table. And I was the most talkative in our family for sure. One of my brothers, they called him hyperactive then. So I'm sure he had ADHD too. But, he's also, he not completely rivals me, but he also enjoys talking a lot. Anyway, my mom would say, what are you thinking about right now? And even my really quiet brothers always had things that they were thinking about. They always, oh, I was thinking about this. And that's what we talk about at dinner time. And I said to my husband, early in our marriage, just to stir up conversation, what are you thinking about right now? And he said, nothing. And I said, no, you have to be thinking about something. He's like, no, there's really nothing in my head right now. I was just resting. And I thought, I never don't have anything going on in my mind. That is crazy. I didn't know there were people who actually had some quiet in their mind. Maybe that's why I'm drawn to yoga because I'm learning to feel the quiet in my mind, but I don't know if it 100% happens, but it is relaxing. It is for sure relaxing. And my plan is to make some ADHD yoga classes. And that's not what I'm actually going to call it. It just came out that way in my mouth right now. But yoga that's more uh, geared to people who need to move a little bit more and maybe have a harder time just being still and, not getting bored. I'd be happy to do that. I think that would be fun. That I have a lot of ideas, of course, of course. But for now, I think I should end because I've been here for a little while and I'm sure you're ready to do something else. But thank you so much for being here today. Oh, and also, I was working on my website today, figuring out how to link my podcast episodes and make it so you could find them or vice versa, you could find my website. Still working on that. I was able to do it one direction, but not necessarily the other direction. But I saw that I had my first review on Apple Podcasts, and I didn't know anybody even listened yet. So thank you, Mama and Gigi. That was the name of the person who left the review, and she said that she was glad to listen to somebody who understood what it was like, what she experiences. And that just makes me so happy because I love that we can come together. That's my whole aim of doing this is helping everyone realize how amazing you are and that we're all unique and a lot of us share these unique traits. And if I can help you with any of that, that would make me extra, extra happy. But thank you so much for being here. If you haven't left a review and you want to, I know I listen to podcasts forever and ever before I ever leave a review, but some people do. So if you want to, that'd be great. But, if you just keep listening, that's fine too. Thanks so much. Bye.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Daily Run. silence of sound has yet been found, but not by me. I buttered my toast, spread on some grape jelly. I don't mean to boast, but I'm a chef and a good one. My grandma can't hear me. That breakfast is done. Heaven getting colder, ever older, so I run. Open windows, broken shadows. Frozen dreams are left for tomorrow. Without a cause, no time for a pause. Rewind, I've run out of time to sing melodies and harmonies. I'm cut short, the silence of sound has yet been found, but not by me.